So everyone has flaws and deficiencies because we're human beings, right? We have these flaws and deficiencies and we have to deal with them. We have to deal with them and hopefully fix them, repair them, make ourselves better people, better men, right? Well, see, but the problem is that now, as of late, there is this fashion, and it is a fashion of calling our flaws and deficiencies and our defects, to call them disorders. Now, I find this, on the one hand, just laughable, and on the other hand, deeply troubling. I watched this development, okay? I mean, when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, that's when the word disorder first hit the scene. It was attached to post-traumatic stress disorder, the new term that was applied to returning Vietnam War vets who were, basically screwed in the head because of the war that they've been fighting in, right? In the 70s and 80s, I saw how the concept of post-traumatic stress disorder rose in public consciousness. And then I watched as disorders started sprouting like mushrooms, right? There was anxiety disorder, there was a personality disorder, all kinds of disorders for all kinds of maladies and deficiencies and flaws that we have. They got repackaged into disorders. In the 70s, 80s, 90s, and then in the aughts, and now in the teens, I mean, everybody's got a disorder nowadays, right? Right. It's like the thing. You have to have a disorder, practically. It's almost like the fashion demands that you have a disorder, which is kind of weird if you think about it, isn't it? Why is it that our defects, our flaws, our deficiencies have been repackaged into disorders? Well, it's very simple, really. You see, when you have a deficiency or a flaw, say you're lazy, just for the sake of argument, right? You're lazy, and so that's you. It's your fault. You're the one to blame for your laziness. But if you have a disorder, it removes agency. You're not responsible. It's the disorder. The disorder did it. The disorder is responsible for you not, going to school and studying hard. The disorder is the reason that you're 500 pounds. The disorder is the reason that, you can't hold down a job. The disorder is the reason that you're too afraid to talk to girls. The disorder did it. The disorder is the one responsible. The disorder sort of like takes out our flaws, our defects, creates a nice little package and just puts it on the shelf, separate from us, and we're not responsible for it. So that is the first reason that everybody got in this bandwagon of disorders. The second issue that happens when you recategorize your flaws and defects as disorders is that it makes them chronic in terms of how you're going to fix them. See, and in a very real sense, it basically tells you, you don't have to fix it because it's a disorder, it's chronic, it's always going to be with you. So there's no incentive to change the behavior, to fix the flaw, fix the deficiency, fix the defect. It's just this chronic thing that, yeah, sure, you took it out of yourself and you put it on a little shelf, and it's always going to be on that shelf. It's always going to be there with you. It's going to be like this Siamese twin. All of your behavior, all through your life, is going to be affected by this disorder. And the third key issue, and I think actually the most pernicious of them all, is that it makes people feel special. That's a horrible thing. You see, when you have a flaw or a defect or a deficiency, you feel ashamed. You feel ashamed of it because you don't like that about yourself. Say that you're lazy. You're lazy and you feel that that is a flaw in you and you feel ashamed. But if you repackage it as a disorder, you can say that not only is it not you, it's the disorder that did it, and not only do you say that this is always going to be with you and so you don't need to really fix it. See, the very fact that it is a disorder can make you feel better than your peers. That is, by repackaging a deficiency, defect, flaw as a disorder, you no longer have to think of it as a negative. You can see it as a positive. This disorder makes you special, makes you unique, differentiates you from your peers, something that in the past would make people think less of you, now they treat you with kid gloves because you're in the grips of a disorder. You see? You see how pernicious that is? Because by removing it from you and creating it into a chronic condition that's always there by your side, always on the shelf there, you're not responsible. You never have to fix it. And rather than feel ashamed about it, you feel better about yourself because of it. And that's why I find the whole notion of disorder is just so distasteful and so really despicable. When you feel ashamed of a behavior that you indulge in, you feel ashamed, you feel bad about yourself, right? And what do you naturally try to do? You try to fix the situation. You try to not feel ashamed, because shame is a negative emotion, a very negative emotion, and something that none of us like to feel. And so we will go out of our way to fix a behavior or an attitude or a way of being that we are ashamed of and that other people disapprove of. But see, if everybody looks at your quote-unquote disorder not as a net negative, but as a positive, oh, poor you have a disorder, oh, hoo, hoo, then you don't have to do anything about it. And you can revel in the fact that you have a defect, that you have a deficiency, that you have a flaw. You can revel in it. Look at all these people, you know, these fat acceptance people. What are they doing? They are reveling in the fact that they are slothful pigs, because that's what they are. If you weigh over 220, 230 on the outside, and you know you're not lean like an athlete, then you're a fucking pig. You're an obese fuck who eats too goddamn much. You are in the grips of sloth. But if it's a disorder, oh well, poor thing, he's got a disorder. It foments the idea that you can be lesser, that you can be, you know, just stuck in a rut. And rather than being stuck in a rut and identifying yourself, your life as being in such, you can say, oh, I have a disorder. It's not my fault, and I'm not responsible. And oh, it even makes me special. Isn't that great? Fuck that noise, man. Fuck it. It's wrong. It's wrong to be that way, to identify your flaws, your defects, your deficiencies of character as disorders. To my way of thinking, my way of looking at the world, I would guess that the vast majority of the people who say that they have some disorder or other, they're lying. They're lying. They're lying through their teeth. They're using the excuse of having a disorder to avoid the hard work of changing for the better, because it is hard. Changing for the better, improving yourself, it's never easy. It's always hard. So if you say that you have a disorder, you have the perfect get out of jail free card. You have the perfect way of not improving yourself. You have the perfect way of excusing your despicable behavior. You have the perfect way of aggrandizing yourself by virtue of your flaws. Aggrandizing yourself, making yourself better, special, more important than other people by virtue of your defects, the defects that you make no effort whatsoever to fix. That's fucking despicable. It really is. There's no other way to look at it. And I'm telling you, the vast majority of people are doing that today in our Western culture, and certainly in the United States. The vast majority of people. Of the 100 people who say that they have some disorder, I'm betting that not more than 1 or 2 actually have a true disorder. That's what I think. Because I have actually met people with PTSD. I mean, real guys who actually were at war and saw combat and saw literally as their best friend got vaporized right next to them. And those guys who have actual PTSD, they don't go around advertising it. And it's something that they try to control. They say that they're normal. It's not the first card that they flip out when they meet you. But these fakers, that's the first thing they say. Oh, hi, I'm John Smith. Oh, I have an anxiety disorder, so please don't trigger me. What the fuck? They're the ones who always flip out that card and they use it as the first card that they lay down on the table, the trump card to get out of any kind of responsibility for their actions. And it's low. It's fucking low. Don't act that way. It's wrong. It's wrong, and it's kind of funny at first But when you start like digging into it and looking at it a little more closely, in a little more detail, you realize how fucking pathetic these fuckers really are. I mean, look at what they're doing. They're trying to gain sympathy because of their weakness. They're trying to feel special because of their weakness of character. Don't be like that. Don't be like that, because nobody's going to respect you. Nobody worthwhile will respect you. The losers, the fuck-ups, the nobodies, the nothings, they'll find your sob story all that great. Yeah, they'll say, oh yeah, poor thing, you have a disorder. Oh, ho, ho, yeah, come over here, let me give you a hug. Right? But men whom you would want to earn the respect of, they're not going to respect you if you say that your problems are the result of your disorder. They really won't. Another reason that we have this, explosion of disorders is because of pharmaceutical companies, drug companies, because they make a lot of money off of drugs to treat different disorders. Be they real or imaginary, doesn't matter. The sale is always real. See, if people have disorders, especially chronic disorders, okay, these disorders that never have a fix, a drug company is going to be selling the prescription, filling out that script for years, for decades. And those little pills, those anti-anxiety disorder medication bullshit crap, right? $7 a pop or whatever the fuck it is, right? They're going to be making so much goddamn money, so they never want that gravy train to end. And so, of course, they send doctors to the Caribbean for these conferences. It's just an underhanded way of paying them off so that these doctors go back to their cities and prescribe more medication to their patients. And of course, the doctors want this because a patient with a chronic condition, what is he? He's a returning customer. A psychologist, a psychiatrist, he's going to have a steady source of income if he's got somebody with some disorder. A disorder that can never be fixed, and that the person is never really trying to fix because it's a disorder. It can't be fixed. You see? And I'm getting hot under the collar on this issue because I think it's one of the reasons that our society has become so goddamn weak. If you have no reason to improve yourself, if you have no incentive to be a better man, and on the contrary, you have a whole society that wants you to have a disorder. You have a whole medical profession, pharmaceutical companies, they all want you to have this disorder, this malady, this chronic malady that's not your fault and that you can never fix except with the pill, except with the treatment. And you'll be special because of it. Well, if we have a society like that, then the men become weak. And these weak men are not able to confront the challenges that our society is facing and will continue to face, because life is just a series of crises and problems to be solved. It's endless, and that's life, and to bitch and moan about it is stupid. Okay, we have a constant grind of problems and challenges that confront us, and we have to be up to the task. We have to be able to confront these challenges and best them, right? But if we are constantly told that we are weak, that we have this disorder and we can never fix this disorder, then it gives us no incentive to better ourselves. In my own life, as a 50-year-old man, I can say with absolute certainty that the defects and flaws that I have had in my character, and I still have, I have, if not fixed them, I've ameliorated them. And I've made every effort of will to do so. And as I age and grow and change, some of my defects sort of fade over the horizon. And then other defects, other flaws rise up. And it's a constant process of changing and evolving. And so I have to make this effort to improve, because if I don't improve, then my life is not going to be one of growth. It's going to be one of stagnation, of stasis. And stasis, stagnation, entropy, that leads to oblivion. You see, it's tempting to fall for the idea that all your flaws and defects are really the symptoms of some disorder. It's so tempting. See, temptation is like that. That's how temptation works. See, it's tempting, but it's ultimately self-destructive. And I'll explain why. If you decide that your flaws and defects and deficiencies are all the result of a disorder, even if it's, some doctor tells you this, which they'll tell you because you're paying them to tell you. Well, if some doctor tells you this, right, it'll give you the excuse to never fix yourself. It'll give you the excuse to be the same as you are forever and never grow and never change. And that ultimately is a road that leads to death. Perhaps not physical death. I mean, you're not going to die like tomorrow, but spiritual death. I don't know how to end this video. It's something that troubles me deeply because I think especially young people are they're such easy targets for this easy way out because they're young, because, they don't know any better. And I think it is an evil, evil thing that so many people have been convinced that they have disorders. Because they don't have disorders, okay? They're just afraid and ashamed of facing their deficiencies. So they find it easier to blame it on a disorder than to be brave, be strong, be a man, and face your demons and defects and flaws and deficiencies. Face them like a man, look them in the eye, and fix them.